They say mastery is a mountain only a few ever climb. Most men stop halfway, not because the path is too steep, but because their spirit is too loud. Musashi understood this long before he became a legend. He discovered something warriors still forget today. The greatest enemy is not the man in front of you. It's the noise within you. This is the story of a system, not written in scrolls, not taught in temples, but forged in solitude, hammered in silence, and sharpened through fear. A young wanderer once sought Musashi, begging to be taught the secret to mastering any skill. The boy expected swords, stances, or sacred rituals. Instead, Musashi handed him a broom and pointed toward a quiet corner of the dojo. "Master this," he said. "Then you will master anything." The boy didn't know it then, but this moment would break him, rebuild him, and reveal the system that shaped one of the greatest warriors who ever lived. Tonight, we walk the same path he walked, a path of discipline over desire, silence over noise, presence over ego, a path that transforms ordinary men into unshakable spirits. If this lesson echoes in your heart, stay and walk the path with us. He arrived at the dojo just before dusk, a thin silhouette against the fading red sky, shoulders tight, breath uneven, eyes burning with the kind of desperation a man carries when he has run out of excuses. His name did not matter. Men like him had come before, restless, hungry, convinced that somewhere outside themselves lived the secret that would finally make them whole. He believed mastery was a door, and Musashi held the key. What he didn't know was that the door was inside him, and it was locked from within. Musashi stood at the entrance, silent, studying the boy the way a monk watches a candle struggling in the wind. He saw everything instantly. The tension in the jaw, the impatience in the stance, the ego wrapped in ambition. A boy chasing power, while running from himself. The dojo floor creaked as the boy bowed, waiting for the great master to speak. But Musashi said nothing. And that silence, sharp, heavy, deliberate, was the first cut. The silence stretched until the boy's breath broke under its weight. He expected a greeting, a lesson, perhaps even a test of skill. Instead, Musashi simply turned and walked deeper into the dojo, as if inviting a shadow to follow. The boy hesitated. That hesitation revealed everything. Most men think they seek mastery. What they truly seek is relief from their own uncertainty. Musashi paused near the dim corner where old weapons hung like sleeping ghosts. Without looking back, he spoke his first words, soft but cutting through the boy's chest like a blade drawn in the dark. "If you wish to learn, abandon the belief that you already know." The boy felt something in him crack, a quiet fracture where pride had been. He didn't yet understand it, but this was the beginning of his unmaking. A transformation always begins with a break. And before dawn the next morning, Musashi would reveal the first fragment of the ancient system, a lesson hidden in the most ordinary object. Dawn broke with a thin, pale light that slipped across the dojo floor like a quiet warning. The boy stood ready, spine straight, hands firm, waiting for the sword he believed he deserved. Instead, Musashi placed a broom in his palms. The boy felt his throat tighten. A broom, rough, ordinary, its wooden handle worn smooth by years of unnoticed labor. This was not training. This was humiliation. But Musashi's expression did not shift. He simply pointed to the far corner of the dojo, where dust gathered like forgotten secrets. A cracked drawer sat beside it, symbols carved into its face long ago, half faded now, as if hiding a story the boy wasn't yet worthy of hearing. "Begin," Musashi said. Hours passed. Dust rose. Muscles burned. But something darker began to rise too. frustration scraping against the walls of the boy's chest. He swept harder, faster, angrier, and that anger revealed the first truth. He had never done anything in his life with full presence. By the third day, the dojo floor gleamed. Yet the boy felt dirtier inside than when he began. Every sweep exposed a different kind of dust, not on the wood, but in himself. He noticed how his mind wandered, how memories intruded, how imagined futures pulled him away from the rhythm of the present moment. The broom became a mirror, reflecting a spirit scattered into 1,000 fragments. Musashi watched in silence, leaning beside the cracked drawer whose carving seemed almost alive in the shifting light. The boy tried to ignore it, but something about that drawer, locked, ancient, untouched, felt like a warning, or a promise. By the 7th day, the boy finally moved without resentment. Each sweep slow, precise, intentional. The floor was not changing anymore. He was. Presence had entered him the way dawn enters a dark room, quietly, then all at once. And only then did Musashi introduce the next blade, a lesson carried not in motion, but in silence. The morning began with a strange stillness, the kind that makes even birds pause before breaking the air. The boy stepped into the dojo expecting more sweeping, more repetition. But Musashi stood waiting, staff in hand, eyes colder than the dew settling on the wooden floor. "Today," he said, "you will sweep without a sound." The boy frowned. Impossible. The bristles always scraped, always whispered against the floorboards. But Musashi was already turning away, his shadow stretching long across the dojo like a silent judge. The first sweep made a faint hiss. A tap of Musashi's staff cracked the air. The second sweep, softer, controlled, still made sound. Another tap. By the third attempt, frustration rose like heat in the boy's throat. Why did silence matter? Why this ritual? Then he noticed something he had never seen before. The dust near the cracked drawer, rising before his broom even touched it. A small mystery, an unanswered invitation. Hour by hour, the dojo shifted around him. The world grew quieter, not because sound disappeared, but because he became capable of hearing what was always there. His breath, the trembling of his own hands, the soft pulse in his ears that revealed how tense he still was. Neuroscientists today call this interoception, the mind awakening to its own inner signals. Musashi didn't use such words, but he trained it with precision. Silence sharpened the boy's senses until he could feel a draft moments before it entered the room. He could sense dust beginning to fall, like tiny gray snowflakes suspended in hesitation, waiting to land. The cracked drawer in the corner, the one that had bothered him since the first day, began to feel different too. The carving seemed deeper, more deliberate, as if silence itself revealed a language etched into the wood long before he arrived. When the final sweep made no sound at all, Musashi finally nodded, and the boy realized something unsettling. Silence was not an absence. It was a blade he had been too afraid to wield. But the blade of silence was only preparation. The next lesson would force him to face the darkest part of himself, the part that hid in fear. The forest swallowed them whole long before the boy realized how far they had walked. No lantern, no moon. Only the thrum of insects and the slow, predatory shift of wind moving between branches like a warning whispered too late. Musashi stopped at a clearing where the earth felt colder, as if something beneath it had never warmed. He pointed to a patch of ground, nothing more than dirt and fallen leaves. "Sit," he said. Then he vanished into the dark. The boy's breath shook. Every rustle became a threat. Every shadow grew teeth. His mind betrayed him first, inventing shapes in the distance, imagining figures moving between trees. Old fears he thought he'd buried crawled out like creatures from a cracked drawer left too long unopened. A small sound behind him, a twig snapping, sent panic rushing through his veins. But nothing emerged. Just silence. Just darkness. Just him. And for the first time, he wondered if the real enemy was not lurking in the forest, but living inside his skull. Time dissolved. Minutes felt like hours, hours like years. The boy's mind swung between terror and exhaustion, painting horrors in the dark. Bandits with drawn blades, wild animals with hungry eyes, the ghost of a defeated version of himself, kneeling, begging to go home. Then a thought cut through the noise like a hidden blade. None of this is happening, yet my body is reacting as if it is. Heart racing, palms sweating, muscles tense against enemies that did not exist. Modern psychology calls this the threat simulation system, the brain rehearsing danger to keep us alive. But left untrained, it becomes a prison. Musashi's lesson was brutal but precise. Let the mind show every monster, and do not run. At some point before dawn, the boy stopped flinching at every sound. The forest had not changed. His relationship to fear had. And when they returned to the dojo, Musashi would reveal the next layer of the system. Not in the forest or in combat, but in the quiet hierarchy of everyday tasks. The boy expected a reward after surviving the forest. A new technique, a weapon, perhaps even praise. Instead, Musashi handed him a list of tasks so ordinary they felt like an insult. Chop wood, meditate, repair a cracked bucket, observe the wind in the courtyard, sweep again, practice stances until his legs burned. Nothing ranked, nothing explained, nothing glamorous. At first, resistance swarmed his mind like flies around a neglected wound. Why should chopping wood be treated with the same seriousness as sword work? Why should repairing tools matter as much as combat stance? Musashi watched him struggle, offering no clarification. Only silence. Only observation. But the real shift began when the boy noticed something unsettling. His mood changed depending on the task he was assigned, as if the task itself controlled him. A cracked bucket made him irritated. Sword practice made him eager. Meditation made him restless. His spirit reacted, not responded. A dangerous weakness, and Musashi knew it. The breakthrough came quietly, the way most transformations do. One morning, while repairing the same cracked bucket he had cursed the day before, the boy felt something shift. His breath slowed. His hands steadied. The task no longer felt beneath him. It felt precise, almost meditative. The bucket didn't change. He did. Preference had loosened its grip. Musashi approached, carrying a wooden sword in one hand and a broom in the other. "Choose," he said. For the first time, the boy didn't reach instantly for the sword. He simply bowed and replied, "Whichever you give me, I will do fully." Musashi's eyes softened, a rare crack in the master's mask. Modern psychology calls this task neutrality, the ability to shift states without emotional resistance. Musashi called it something simpler. The man who prefers nothing is prepared for everything. In becoming that man, the boy's spirit grew quieter, deeper, more balanced, like a pond untouched by wind. And only then, when his ego finally stopped choosing, did Musashi place the first real weapon in his hands and test what truly remained inside him. The dojo felt different that morning, as if the air itself stood still, waiting. Musashi entered without a word, carrying a wooden sword wrapped in a thin red thread. A symbol, a signal, a quiet ending, or a quiet beginning. He placed it gently in the boy's hands. There was no trembling now, no hunger, no ego reaching forward. Only breath, steady, controlled, almost serene. Musashi stepped back, his expression unreadable. And then, without warning, he struck. A flash of motion, a blur of intent, a blade of silence cutting through the air. But the boy moved before thinking, before fearing, before trying. His body shifted like wind avoiding a rock. effortless, natural, free from hesitation. Musashi's eyes narrowed, not in doubt, but in recognition. The boy had crossed a threshold without realizing it. Mastery had slipped into him the same way dawn slips into a room, unnoticed until everything is light. Musashi attacked again, faster, sharper, with the weight of years behind every strike. But the boy's movements were no longer movements. They were responses from stillness. Breath guiding muscle, silence guiding timing, presence guiding instinct. He wasn't fighting Musashi. He wasn't fighting fear. He wasn't fighting himself. He was simply there. Psychologists today call this the flow state, the merging of action and awareness, where the self dissolves and only the moment remains. But Musashi knew it centuries earlier. When the mind is silent, the body becomes truth. Finally, Musashi lowered his staff. A soft smile, the first the boy had ever seen, carved itself gently across his weathered face. "You understand," he said, and the boy did. Mastery wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It wasn't lightning. It was a man returning to himself. Yet as the morning light touched the cracked drawer in the corner, the boy felt a strange pull, a quiet reminder that the path of mastery never ends, and some lessons wait in silence for years before revealing themselves. Mastery did not strike him like thunder. It settled on him like dust, quietly, invisibly, in the unnoticed spaces between every breath he had taken along the path. Weeks later, the boy sat alone in the dojo. The broom leaned against the wall. The cracked drawer rested in its shadowed corner, and the wooden sword wrapped in red thread lay across his lap like a question he was only now learning to answer. He traced the thread with his thumb, realizing something simple yet devastating. Musashi had never taught him to master a weapon. He had taught him to master the man who held it. Discipline in the small, silence in the mind, presence in the moment, fear faced without running. These were not steps. They were the bones of the person he was becoming. He rose slowly, the wooden sword still in his hand, the red thread catching the faint morning light like a fragile promise. For the first time, he walked toward the cracked drawer, the one that had watched his entire journey like an unblinking witness. His fingers hovered above its worn surface, feeling the grooves of forgotten carvings. Not a symbol of mystery anymore, but a reminder. A reminder that mastery is not a destination, but a drawer inside every man, locked, heavy, waiting for courage. He did not open it. He wasn't meant to. Some lessons are not revealed by masters, but by time. Instead, he bowed to the drawer, to the dojo, to the boy he once was, and to the man he was still becoming. When he stepped outside, the world felt different. Not because it had changed, but because he finally could see it. And somewhere behind him, in the silent dojo, the cracked drawer seemed to shift slightly, as if something inside had been waiting for his awakening.